Welcome to the Church of Mabus radio show. It's Friday night, 7:09 p.m. Central. Listening to United Public Radio. And we got Wham here with us. We got Maxim Furek here. Did I say that good? Good and right? Maxim Furek.
Well, kind of. It's actually Maxim Furek.
Furek.
You got it. Okay, you hit it. Okay. But we're good. Yeah. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
And man. Jeffrey Pritchett. Did I hit that one?
Pritchett. That was good. That's good. You said it with a little French flair, sort of. Pritchett.
Don't read into that, my friend.
No. I don't even think it's French. It's Welsh and Britain and a lot of Vikings. My memory, man, that's my biggest problem. Like, I've been doing this thing Prolific, which is like you get paid to do these surveys, and they're from universities all over the world. And I'll make a few $100s on it. If you ever need to make some chunk change, it's called Prolific, Prolific, and you do surveys, but they're crazy, like psychological, crazy shape stuff. And it's like, are they trying to find the X-Men or whatever? But I've made a few extra 100 on it once in a while, so it comes in handy. But there's some stuff on there, like it'll make you read something, and then your memory, you have to remember it. And it's like, if you don't, you fail an attention check. So I have to be careful, because my memory sucks. Like, it's horrible. But I'm on there so far. But it's a good little thing to make some little spare change. But there's crazy stuff on there about politics and race and abortion and just different university. Even Harvard has surveys on there, and it's like psychological stuff, but they pay you, and you can get about $5 to $40 a survey or something, and sometimes $1 to $2. It adds up after a while, but it can get tedious. I've been doing that lately, but good to have you back. And for the Smurl haunting, had you for Coal Region Hoodoo and the Bigfoot book, and now the Smurl haunting. And great to have you here. Your archives have been doing amazing. I'll have to show you those in email at some point. Yeah. But they've been getting about 100,000 hits, and we've been hitting about 1 million, I've heard lately, on here live. But great to have you back. It's always a pleasure, and good to see you.
Yeah, and just back at you. And I remember the last podcast interview we had with you and Professor Wham, and I thought that it was pretty good. We went deep, and but I do want to thank you for the opportunity to be on your program and to tell your listeners about my research on my books. It's a wonderful thing, these podcasts. I mean, they're free. It's great for authors like us to get the word out. So, I can't thank you enough for what you do. I know you're a business and you're a professional, but I want to thank you because it just helps guys like me immensely. I'm just a little guy trying to get the word out about my books and my research. So, I appreciate this opportunity.
You're welcome, and great to have you here.
Yeah.
And so what stood out to you about the Smurl haunting? I haven't watched that Conjuring movie. It's in my to-do list soon, but I know a little bit about it. I remember something about cops and TV sets. I think we talked about it briefly the last time you were here, and I remember that story somewhere else. So that's where it gets really crazy, just to imagine cops seeing TVs floating in a house.
Yeah.
But what got you first introduced to it?
Yeah. Well, first of all, my book, The Smurl Haunting, when Ed and Lorraine came to town, that's been out about, I think, 3-4 months and doing really well. I mean, people tend to like it. And I don't know if you could flash that, but here's the thing. In my picture, my photo of Ed and Lorraine Warrens right there, that's from 1988. I met them, but a couple of things. I tell people, if they want to be entertained, go see Conjuring Last Rites. It's a horror movie, and it's totally fictitious, with just maybe a couple of things that ring the truth, but most of it is just fictitious. If you want the truth, read my book, The Smurl Haunting, because we take a deep dive into the demonic, and we compare and contrast the Smurl Haunting with things like other haunted houses, like Amityville, the Damned Wells house, and a number of other, the Hinsdale house, things like that. So I think the book works on a whole lot of different levels, and I had a lot of fun writing it and researching it. But West Pittston, Pennsylvania was right in my backyard. I'm a snowbird. I spend summers in Pennsylvania and winters down here in Florida. But West Pittston was in my backyard. It was 30 minutes away from me. So when that was going on in the 80s, I was there. I was taking pictures and interviewing the neighbors and all that. In 1988, Ed and Lorraine Warren hit the road. They were doing a 15-city tour promoting a book called The Haunted, and that was about the Smurl haunting. That came out in 1988. That predated my book and the Conjuring Last Rites. And then in this year, July of this year, I went to Gettysburg to see Annabelle the doll. You could see Annabelle in the background there. But that's when I met Dan Rivera, Annabelle's chief handler, and some reporters have alleged that I was the last researcher to see Dan, to speak to Dan before he died. But I met him on Friday, July the 11th, and he died on the 13th. He died a day before we were supposed to do a formal telephone interview, for the book. And I told him I was right. I was researching the Smurl haunting, and but anyway, it's unfortunate. But I feel that I'm a part of this book. I feel that maybe there was something that I don't know, channeled through me or motivated me to write the book. I mean, I was inspired to write the book, and so that's pretty much the way it was.
Who was the guy that passed away? Was that the guy that had the Annabelle thing happen to him?
Yeah, that was Dan Rivera, and we went there to Gettysburg to see Annabelle. And let me see, I think I have a shot of that, but it was just like, it shocked everybody. And they keep on taking Annabelle on the road, and bad things continue to happen. But here's a picture of me and Dan Rivera and Annabelle. Can you see that?
Man, oh man, that's the guy that passed away from it, right? I mean, what do you think about that?
Again, I met him on July 11th, and he died on the 13th. So,
and you're lucky it didn't whack you. It got him. Unfortunate that it got him. But what do you think about blaming the doll for it? Do you think there's something to it?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, well, first of all, the New England Society for Psychic Research was saying, let's not talk about this. Let's let the Dan Rivera family grieve in peace. But there are other people that are saying, no, wait a second, we better talk about it because there's something going on here. Maybe something of the demonic. Maybe Annabelle's demonic energies somehow caused Dan Rivera's death. So let's consider that. If we are paranormal researchers and podcasters and authors, then let's look at that possibility. And, the Psychic Vincent sisters, I interviewed them extensively, and they believe that Annabelle is a part of this. The Warrens' grandson, Chris McConnell, I believe his name is, McConnell, believed that, that Annabelle should have stayed in the Occult Museum in Monroe, Connecticut. And that's what Lorraine Warren said, keep her there with all the other artifacts. But in 2025, Tony Schmira and the other people with the New England group decided to take Annabelle on the road. And here's the thing that I want your listeners to be aware of. They didn't take Annabelle on the road for our paranormal edification. It wasn't to enlighten us or educate us or anything else. When I went there to Gettysburg, my wife and I both paid $40 each, along with, according to the Gettysburg newspaper, 1,260 other people that were there. That is a take of around $50,000 for those 3 days to see Annabelle, not counting the money they made in San Antonio, West Virginia, and New Orleans. They probably raked in, give or take, $200,000. So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about a money-making endeavor. We're talking about capitalism. So don't call it anything else, and don't point fingers at anybody else. I mean, this was just, and this is what happened. This is what happened. They disrespected the wishes of Lorraine Warren and took Annabelle on the road. So, I believe something of the demonic happened. The coroner said, no, it was a natural death, that he had a cardiac issues. Well, that's one theory, well, I got another, I don't quite buy into it. I think there was something happening there. I mean, why did they keep this doll in a wooden cage with infused with holy water and holy oil, with the Lord's Prayer tacked to the back, with the crucifixes, crosses for the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost.
Yeah.
Why did they have all that? And why did they have Father Bob there, according to the website, at all these places where Annabelle went? With the exception of Friday, July 11th, when I was there, Father Bob was nowhere to be seen. So, whatever disclaimers they had about everybody was safe with Annabelle, Father Bob, that was supposed to keep us safe, wasn't there. So, I don't know. It's a real mess. And there's a war going on. There's a lot of people in the paranormal community pointing fingers at the New England Society for Psychic Research for maybe being a little bit reckless in taking Annabelle on the road. So, that's one theory, but we don't know. All we know is that Dan Rivera is dead. So it's unfortunate. And
that picture happened before he passed away. Was that like right before that, or was that a different time?
Let me say it again. My wife took that picture Friday, July the 11th. He died 2 days later. We agreed to do a phone interview for the book on Monday when he returned to Connecticut, and he died the day before. I was supposed to interview him on the 14th. I got a call from one of my friends and said, "Hey, did you hear about that Gettysburg researcher?" And I did not think it was Dan Rivera. I thought it was somebody else. And here it was Dan Rivera. I mean, I was shocked. I was blown away. I am to this day. But I was there when it happened. Now, I called my publisher and I talked to a bunch of other people and I said, "What do you think?" I mean, I wanted to do a chapter called The Death of Dan Rivera. And is this being crass? Is this exploiting? Is this, and, to a person, they said, "No, it sounds like, you were at the right place at the right time. So write about it." And that's what I'm doing. So,
well, I'm glad you're okay. At any time, did you feel anything creepy, or anything weird?
No, as a matter of fact, I've been asked that a lot. But when I looked at Annabelle, and look in the background there, you could see the nun and Annabelle. Annabelle that was in the cage, looks just like Raggedy Ann. And I looked there and I stared into her eyes and there was nothing there. There was nothing. I didn't get any feeling, any sensation, anything. What I did get from Dan Rivera was this, just this powerful devotion to Catholicism. He was a former Methodist that converted to Catholicism, and he was walking on air. He was just talking about that the power of the devil is great, but the power of God is greater. All these guys came at it from a Christian standpoint. That pretty much dogmatic, black and white, good and evil, perspective. But that was their take, and they believed in the strength and the power of God, and saints like Saint Michael the Archangel and Padre Pio. So that was what they were talking. And a lot of what Dan Rivera was talking about was all religious Christian stuff. Nothing demonic, nothing evil, no dancing with the devil. So that was what was going on. But yeah, he was a nice guy, and I considered him a friend.
I wasn't very familiar with the James Rink guy, but I've seen his stuff. I don't know. He was into the super soldier stuff a lot, and that stuff I'm kind of hesitant with anyway, because I don't know a lot about it, and some of it gets a little too kooky with exopolitics and stuff. But anyway, his name was James Rink, and they claim that he was attacked with something and had a heart situation, and he died. He was really only 45, but I've seen stuff around, and it's misfortunate when people, young, die from heart stuff. And my dad died from a heart attack, and I'm sure I have stuff with that too. So it just creeps me out. Yeah. Oh, and this does even more because of the doll. So,
well, this April, it was April this year, 2025, that we were out in Butler, Pennsylvania for the 18th annual Butler Paranormal Conference. And we were there with the Psychic Vincent sisters, Suzanne and Jean. And they were talking about demonic possession and infestation. And there was a guy there, he was a ghost hunter, and he showed with his phone, he had pictures of his chest being scratched, just horrible scratches, and his eyeball, his socket was just hanging there, and he believed he was attacked by a demon. The psychic Vincent sisters thought it was an attachment, and this guy was going around to different alleged haunted houses and mental institutions that had been shut down, and he was going in there not with a group, but by himself, looking for something. Now, when you're looking for something, you might find a wayward ghost or a spirit or maybe even a demon looking for a vulnerable person. So I think that he might have been that vulnerable person. But I saw I talked to him afterwards, and those photographs were pretty graphic. I mean, that they scared me, you know. So, you know, I don't know. I think that the realm of the demonic exists. And I think people that are going out there and looking for ghosts need to be cautious and informed and prepared, you know.
Yeah, I think I've attracted some stuff like that at points where when I've had some UFO stuff happen that's been very big, where I have encounters, and there's one over the house. It's been a while since it's been that big, but at one point I think things notice, and it may be demonic, and they're saying, "Oh, look at this guy, he's attracting, the star people, so we're gonna stay on him." And I mean, I've dealt with some dark side stuff that's feeling weird stuff and just.
And what is it, do you think, that you have that is attracting these entities? What do you suppose that is?
I don't know. I know Michelle, who you were just on her show, has done some clearings from remotely to clear houses and stuff and that I've been at. And she has picked up some stuff that I'm like, what? Like, it takes you a minute to even process it and to believe it. And I believe it. But she said one time she removed an interstellar demon from a house that we were at. And also that was after a glass exploded and something was hitting the bed there, and there was weird stuff going on. But there's been different stuff, like some kind of weird gnome thing up in the ceiling that she said she removed, some kind of like elemental or something. But the biggest one was, though, when Michelle says we removed an interstellar demon from your house. You're like, what? And I believe it. I think I track that kind of stuff for some. I think part of it's just the UFO thing that. I mean, if you're a demon and you see a dude attracting UFOs, you're going to be like, well, what's going on with that? And I still don't know exactly what's going on with that, but I think it can pick up stuff for sure.
Well, we used to think that the aliens were space brothers, that they were benevolent and they were trying to keep us from destroying the planet, with the bombs and all that. But then there's another theory that maybe these aliens are evil entities. Maybe they're here to, just to take over or to influence or whatever. So we really don't know, but the thing, the concept of the evil alien, keeps on popping up. Whether the alien is a bounty hunter from outer space coming here to do
predator. Yeah. And well, I mean, I know a long time ago, I think demon used to mean like interstellar traveler or something like that. I remember something about the word interstellar traveler or something like that. So there's different things. And then one of the big things I've seen is two beings of light leave my house, like they were in it and flew out, like they had been inside of it and stuff. And there's been some weird UFO stuff of seeing things being pulled up into them. There was one big one, I think that I forget exactly where that was from. Maybe some of the Skinwalker Ranch stuff, or maybe there was a guy that actually saw one carry a cow off, and then these things will drop the cows and break their backs and craziness. There's a lot of that at Skinwalker Ranch, I know, and there was some witness that actually saw one take a cow.
Those cattle mutilations were pretty known, like maybe in Montana and Idaho, areas like that. But we had a bunch of them in Pennsylvania, especially in the 1970s. So, weird stuff happens all over the place.
And what are some of the other, how did the Amityville horror fit into the Smurl haunting? I know you have some different places that you visited, but how does Amityville fit into all that?
Well, what I did was, I don't get into the Smurl haunting into the middle of the book. And a lot of people have asked me about that, but I did that intentionally. So I wanted to talk about some of the other recognized haunted houses. Hinsdale House in New York was one. The Damned Wells House in northeastern Pennsylvania was another. And of course, everybody talks about Amityville because Amityville is, it was just such a horrendous example of carnage and inhumanity. And that Amityville story was Ronnie DeFeo. He was a 23-year-old kid, Butch DeFeo, that took a rifle and shot his mother twice, his father twice, and then killed his 2 sisters and 2 brothers. And we have never been able to go and wrap our arms around that and understand that it's like a modern day story of Cain and Abel. You know, here with this Ronnie DeFeo, Butch DeFeo was a 23-year-old rich kid. He walked around with thousands of dollars in his pocket. He drove brand new cars. They lived in the very affluent Amityville, New York, and Long Island. And here's the thing, I talk about this in the book extensively. I compare the Smurl haunting with Amityville, but one thing that makes Amityville unique, other than the horror of it all, was that Butch DeFeo claimed that he was possessed by a demon. And the prosecution had to prove, and there was a wonderful book called High Hopes that was written by the prosecutor. And the prosecution had to prove that Butch DeFeo was not possessed by a demon, but that he was a personality disorder, that he needed immediate gratification and he had no empathy towards his fellow humans, especially his family. And they were able to prove this, which, I mean, just it's amazing. But this is demonology in the American court system. And, so one thing that I talk about in the book is there's a chapter called the 2%. And this is pretty interesting because Father Amorth, he was the Vatican's chief exorcist. And Father Amorth said that 98% of the people that they deal with are not possessed by demons. They're not controlled by demons, but they are being plagued by mental illness, whether it's schizophrenia or Tourette's syndrome or bipolar, whatever. And the church, the exorcists, have to weed out those people that are mentally ill from the 2% that are actually possessed or infested by these demons. There was one case that I talk about in the book of a German girl named Anneliese. She was a student, and she died during an exorcism, and the German courts put on trial Anneliese's parents and the 2 priests that conducted the exorcisms, and they were found guilty of homicide. I don't know, 1, 2, or 3, whatever it was, but I mean, she died because of what they did. And now in Germany, they no longer allow the rite of exorcism to be performed, and at least legally, and above the grid. But maybe they still do it underground, but they're not allowed to do that legally. So that was the case that just really broke it up there in Germany. But it's an example of what the church has to do. They have to make sure that these exorcists have to make sure that the person they're dealing with is actually possessed. And it's interesting because this is pretty much the debate. Well, in Christianity, it's the domain of Catholics rather than Protestants. Protestants have sort of given up on that right, I think in the 1600s. But we still have Islamic exorcists, which is similar to Christianity or Catholicism, and so it's still around, and it seems to be more prevalent now. I don't know why, but I mean, this is what a lot of the members of the church are saying, that there's a need for it now, and there's a lot of things that point to that necessity.
Yeah, it's definitely I've been watching a lot of those we've been watching a lot of those paranormal kind of videos that you can watch on YouTube, and I think some of them are real, but you don't know, so you're always saying I don't know if it's real because you don't know. But there's some that definitely I believe is real, and it's interesting how some of these entities show up in the same videos over and over. Like there's one weird one that's like some bald golem looking thing that people keep seeing that's in the woods and stuff, and really creepy. I don't know exactly what it is, but just thinking about it giving me the goosebumps. But And then there's like an Asian girl that kind of shows up in a lot of them. There's a lot of Middle Eastern ones they say are jinns and stuff like that.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
But there's a lot of different videos. I've been watching those, and then after a while, you get jaded to it. You're like, "Well, this is boring. Is this ghost going to do anything? It's just moving a door. Why don't you do something big?
Yeah.
Come on, a door." But I think a lot of that stuff is real. But I think a lot of it, you have to be careful because you don't really know. But,
yeah, I do want to say this to your listeners, though. Conjuring Last Rites wasn't. I mean, I enjoy the whole Conjuring franchise, and I enjoyed the movie, but it certainly wasn't one of their best. And I on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd probably give it maybe a 4. But if you're looking for horror movies as art, you really have to look at Sinners, which is sort of a vampire film through a Black perspective. You have to look at Bring Her Back, an Australian horror movie. And the other one that I saw that I really loved was Weapons with Julia Gardner, I believe. And all these kids from her classroom run away at 3:14 in the morning. And the school wants to know why it was only her class where the kids ran away. So she's branded a witch. And the story starts there, but it's just one layer over another. I mean, this is good.
That one was nuts.
This is good cinema. It's called Weapons, and that needs to get some awards because I thought that was really good. I mean, I love going to horror movies, and the good ones need to be discussed. So,
what's so weird is the guy who did the Weapons, and I saw that, and that was crazy as hell. It was good, but definitely nuts. But he also did one called Barbarian.
Okay.
Did you ever get to see that one? It was about like this that was his first one, called Barbarian. And basically these people go to an Airbnb, and some kind of mutant crazy, I don't know what the hell she is, lives in the Airbnb underneath it, and it's violent and crazy. Yeah. But here's what's so weird about the dude that made Weapons. He actually did a skit show a long time ago called The Whitest Kids We Know. And it's these funny skits. They're on Amazon, but some of them are kind of like twisted, and you're like, oh, this is gross, but they're funny. But that's where he started at, was doing those skits.
Yeah.
Like there's a funny one about Hitler, or making fun of Hitler, and just crazy. Like there's skits. But that Weapons, that was nuts, man. That lady was
that was good, right? The way it just overlapped. And the humor that was in it. Professor Ram, did you see Weapons by any chance? No, okay, yeah. It was a good one.
No. I actually avoid most horror films. Just sort of out of a desire to preserve my ability to sleep.
Okay.
So,
you want some weird shows that are funny on HBO? There's one called Friendship that's got Tim Robinson in it and Paul Rudd, and it's like kind of a dark comedy that's really good. But that Tim Robinson guy, I guess he used to be on Saturday Night Live or something, but he's in a show on HBO called The Chair Company, and they're only 30 minutes apiece, but it's very bizarre and funny and weird. And he also did another show, I Think You Should Leave, which is like skits. That's on Netflix. But I like him because his brand of comedy, he seems mentally disturbed when he acts out and stuff and screams and acts crazy. Yeah. Like he doesn't act like a normal person. Like he acts really, and it's funny.
Yeah.
But those are on HBO. His name's Tim Robinson.
Okay. I'll have to check that out. Yeah. Yeah. So the book has been doing well, and we've been talking about the Smurl haunting on a lot of the podcasts, and it's been getting some really good reviews, and it's published by Anxiety Press and from Chicago. So,
ooh, and okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so we compared and contrasted the Smurl haunting with Amityville, as well as the Hinsdale house, and that was the one that it's in Western New York. It's like south of Buffalo. But this was the one that Father Treble, who was able to cleanse the Smurl haunting, he was not able to cleanse the Hinsdale house. And he just told the people there, just take your belongings and leave, and don't say where you're going, and just leave the property. Father Treble said that some places are just a gateway to hell, and he was referring to the to the Hinsdale house. He wasn't able to cleanse that, just as Father McKenna, Robert McKenna, was not able to cleanse the Smurl house, and he tried to do that 3 times. So it's kind of strange that some of these exorcists can actually get the job done, and others can. And it could be that maybe they're just not able to go and control that demonic force. I'm not sure. But
Yeah.
we have people that had been victorious, and other people that haven't. They've been defeated. So,
What was some of the background on Smurl haunting that they think may have led to the hauntings? Like anything weird happened there, like a murder or anything crazy?
no, there was some conjecture that maybe the Smurl girls were dabbling with a Ouija board, but that was just conjecture. The Smurls were devout Catholics. I mean, they were churchgoers. They had a strong community. They were hard workers. Jack and Janet lived with their 2 daughters, and then they had twins. So the 4 daughters there on one side of the duplex. Jack's parents lived on the other side. So they had a lot of support, and I believe, my personal belief is that the Smurls were targeted by demonic forces because of their beliefs, because they were Christian and they were Catholics. And I think because of that belief, they were targeted. I've been asked, well, why not other people in West Pittston? Why was it just the Smurls, that were infested and harassed by these demonic forces? And I don't know. I mean, I don't know how the devil works. I don't know how these spirits, these ghouls work. But my theory is that it was because the Jack and Janet Smurl were devout churchgoers and believed in God. And I think Satan scores more points when they bring down somebody who's devoted their lives to the Lord, and so that's what I think.
And what was your kind of the final conclusions on the Smurl haunting, the final catharsis, so to speak?
Yeah, well, the Father Treebolt finally got it cleansed, so that worked out. And by that, we knew that it was haunted or possessed because they would. The stories are pretty much the same, whether it's Amityville, Hinsdale, or the Smurl haunting. But you would hear the loud knocks. There would be these horrible smells. You would have the rooms that were hooked up to a heating system that all of a sudden would become 50 degrees or 30 degrees. So you would have these things. Amityville had the flies at the window, and it had the talking pig that the little girl saw. Smurl House had the levitating dog. Smurls had a German Shepherd called Simon. And when Dawn Smurl, I think she was 19 at the time, she witnessed Simon being levitated and thrown against the wall. And that's an interesting event, because we're not sure. It's a little complicated and controversial, because it's either that Dawn was hallucinating, or evil entities picked up Simon and flung it across the room, or that Dawn Smurl was manifesting some kind of psychokinetic energies, and because of her anger and angst, just picked up the dog and levitated it. And we know about this psi energy mainly from Stephen King, who had a pretty good career writing in things like, let's say, Carrie, Firestarter, The Shining. Young people, young adolescents, mainly female, who have this psychokinetic energy, and they don't know how to control it. And so a lot of times it's their angst, their frustration, their immaturity, and they do things, but they have an ability, but they don't know how to control it. So that's another theory, which makes the Smurl house almost like an onion, one peel, one level, one over the next, and one skin over the next. So it's pretty interesting, but there's a lot of different aspects of it, as well as whether or not Ed and Lorraine Warren were, telling the truth, or whether they were con artists, which a lot of people feel. A lot of people felt that they were just charlatans, that they were working a scam.
You met them? How did you end up doing that?
They were 1988. Well, this happened right after the Smurl, stuff. It was all over the papers, from northeastern Pennsylvania, where I'm from. And when I heard that Ed and Lorraine were going to be in Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania, I contacted the owner of the Victorian Theater and asked permission to talk to them and interview them. So I took all these pictures, and the pictures, there's a whole bunch of pictures of Ed and Lorraine that are in the book that I took, and that's back in 1988. And I won't find them now, but okay, yeah, but okay, here's one. They were with the owner of the, can you see that? The owner of the Victorian Theater there.
Okay.
That's in 1988. And I think they were in their 60s at the time, but nice people. They were very polite. I remember hanging out on the sidewalks of Jim Thorpe. It was in, I think, July, and just a nice hot summer night. And we're talking about demonology, and we're talking about demonic forces, and we're talking about, good versus evil. And just like, it was just a wonderful conversation. And if anything, I wish I could go back in time and have the same conversation, but just go more in depth. Just maybe ask the same questions, just with more intensity. I did keep in touch with the Ed and Lorraine over the years before they died, and I would call them up. They were in Monroe, Connecticut, and Lorraine was a lover of animals. She had a pet rooster she called Einstein, and sometimes you could hear the rooster in the background, so that was kind of fun. But they were folksy. They were nice. They didn't have attitudes, and they weren't condescending. They just seemed to be nice people that believed that they had a gift, and that believed that they were on a mission. Irregardless of what you think about Ed and Lorraine Warren, they were pioneers and ambassadors. They were able to go and teach us about the realm of demonology, much like Sybil Leek was able to tell us about the realm of witchcraft, or maybe like the 4 horsemen of Sasquatchery were able to go and talk about Sasquatch and Bigfoot. So they're important for what they did, and they are criticized for being successful. They made money. They were making back in the 80s and 90s. They were making $5,000 a program. They did close to like over 700 programs at colleges. Very hoaxy PowerPoint presentations. Not very well made, but I saw them twice when they were in Jim Thorpe. They did it 2 times, but anyway, they were, a lot of people didn't like them because of their success. And I think the way it works is if you become accomplished and you get a name recognition, I think that you become more of a target. So that's just one thing. But a lot of people didn't like the Warrens, didn't think they were authentic, thought that maybe they were hiding behind or using, Christianity, to make money. Just a whole lot. I mean, I've heard all the haters, what they had to say. So I don't get too concerned about that. I thought they were good people, and they were my friends. And so I could just say that. I mean, for all the times I spoke with them and knew them, they treated me with respect. And, that's how I feel about them.
Well, there's always somebody that's going to besmirch somebody, no matter how good they are.
Yeah.
Be some jackhole out there that's going to do it for sure.
Well,
but what about
human nature? But and what we need to do is, when the person isn't in the room, we need at least one person to stand up for them. That's what we need to do. So if that's what I'm going to do, I mean that's what I've been doing, and I have no problem with that at all.
And what about the damned Wells house? What's the history of the Wells house?
Yeah, that's another one. All these houses that I met, I mentioned these houses in the Smurl haunting for several reasons. One, all of these houses were investigated by Ed and Lorraine Warren. Amityville, Wells House, Hinsdale House, etc. Smurl House. Also, I wanted to compare and contrast the Smurl House with all the other ones. The Wells House was in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. It was relatively close to West Pittston, the Smurl house, same neighborhood more or less. But the Wells house, a renter was hearing noises, and he took a sledgehammer and smashed through the wall. And here he found what looked like a voodoo curse. There was bones wrapped around certain things, and bones, and some other things. And he believed that the original owner of the Wells house had a voodoo curse placed on him. And the Wells house in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, just had a whole bunch of like accidents and murders and just weird things happened that just didn't seem that would happen in one place so often. So it seemed like it was more than a coincidence. And if we operate on the premise that there's no such thing as a coincidence, then it was just a whole lot of elements of high strangeness, one after the next, that happened at the Wells house. So Lorraine, who was a clairvoyant, she felt that there was a person there of German, I think she called him Heister, German. He was an alcoholic, and he was might have been a murderer, and his spirit was lost there. I think that's what Lorraine said. But of the Smurl haunting, Lorraine said there were 4 entities. There was a demon that was manipulating. The demon was the puppet master for 3 other entities that would do the demon's dirty work. Whether that would be the pounding, or, with the Smurl house, a TV set exploded, a chandelier fell down and almost hit one of the girls. I mean, things like that, things that shouldn't have happened. Stains that they couldn't remove, just weird stuff, beyond the pale, So, and what happened was the Hurricane Agnes of 1972 caused massive flooding in northeastern Pennsylvania, and the Jack and Janet Smurl were one of countless people that had to relocate, and they decided to go to West Pittston, Pennsylvania, a very nice bucolic place with tree-lined streets and nice neighbors, and it's a real nice place. But unfortunately, their house, something became infested, and we know that demonic energies can infest people, places, or things. So, when the Smurls left on a camping trip, those forces followed them, and bad things happened there during the camping trip. So, and even with Annabelle, if you believe that demonic energies can infest people, places, and things, well, the Smurl house, the Wells house, the Annabelle, that's just the way it works. And the way it works, my theory is that Ed and Lorraine, or Jack and Janet Smurl, were targeted because of their Christian beliefs. But there's other ways too. Somebody could have a spell placed on them, or they could just be tracked down by the demon, or if anybody's experimenting with things like Ouija boards, that could inadvertently open up a portal to something of the demonic. Now, we talk about this all the time, and I talk to guys that use the Ouija boards to talk to certain spirits that they've identified, that they have a rapport with, and spirits that give them answers and give them direction. Most of us don't have that ability, don't have that knowledge, haven't created that rapport. But and most of us, I think, we play with Ouija boards just as a form of entertainment, hoping that something will manifest. And again, it could be a playful, confused ghost, or it could be a demonic spirit, looking for an opportunity. And so, we don't know, but we know that we need to be concerned and be forewarned with what's out there.
What is the painting of behind you? Is that from the Smurl haunting, or is that something else? What is that from?
Is that the nun?
Yeah, that's who I thought. The nun. It's the nun, isn't it?
Well, in the Conjuring franchise, there's been, I think, 2 movies about the nun, 2 or 3 about Annabelle, and the rest were just The Conjuring, about Ed and Lorraine Warren. And consider that too. Ed and Lorraine Warren, how significant are they? Well, the most popular, the most successful horror franchise of all time, the Conjuring franchise, is worth $2.7 billion net. Jeffrey, that's with an N, that's net. So, highly successful. And Professor Wham, would like to get you in on this. Why do you suppose there's such a interest in a horror franchise like The Conjuring? Why do you suppose it's been so successful? What resonates with the audience that it would, that they've been able to sell worldwide $2.7 billion worth of tickets?
I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I don't know. I've never personally been that interested in possessions, and I think that it speaks to a fascination with power, and a fascination with the unknown. I think also the sensationalism that we currently have speaks to a kind of superstition that persists among people. I take a really different view of all of this stuff than you do, and I respect your view, and I've had some odd experiences. I've experienced what I consider to be evil in the sense that it's dangerous and predatory,
Yeah.
But
the worst kind.
Yeah, but to me, that my experience of it is really different. My experience of it is that people who tend to believe in it the most fervently, and I come from a very religious background, a background where my father in particular believed in demons absolutely and specifically. And I watched how he used that against himself and against others and against the world. And it's been my experience that individuals and communities that believe in evil most profoundly become most subject to it. It's almost like they draw it to them in some way. And that's part of the reason why I kind of avoid really dealing with it or watching movies about it, or I've experienced it. Jeffrey knows some of my story. And it's not that I actually don't believe in demons as such. I tend much more towards the Islamic view of possessions, that a lot of what is ascribed to demons is actually are various forms of jinn possession, and jinn and demons are quite distinct in Islamic cosmology. And the reason why jinn go after humans is because frankly humans create the conditions which make it possible for them to do so.
Okay.
And not all jinn do that. Only some jinn do that, because jinn are like humans in that they have absolute free will, and so some believe, some are exploitative, just like some humans are exploitative. But I tend to believe that the real evil in the world is human in origin. It is not demonic in origin, and so, as to why people would pay lots and lots of money to see things, I don't know. I mean, people pay lots and lots of money to see the X-Men. Anything that can be, I don't necessarily index reality and with commercial success. To me, commercial success means that something has been found that will sell.
Yeah.
And lots of things will sell. Things that are sensational, things that that whatever, and I don't really deal that much with it. I mean, the only horror movies that I watch are sort of the classic ones, like the old monster movies and stuff like that. I really am not that interested in haunted houses, and I've lived in haunted houses. I go to a haunted gym. I mean, it's not that I don't believe that things can be haunted, but I'm also not, I really try to concentrate. I'm kind of like Paul Eno. I really try to concentrate on the light and trying to help people understand that no matter what difficult things are going on in their lives, that that they can find ways of empowering themselves. I don't know that the Catholic version of exorcism works in some cases, because again, if you believe in evil, then or you feel like you're just ultimately victimized by it, you might just bring it right back to you. I mean, part of the reason why I think that the Islamic approach to exorcism is more successful, oftentimes it is because they don't try to banish the possessing entity. What they do is they remind the possessing entity that it is part of the light, that any power that it has actually comes from the source. It doesn't have the kind of absolute power that it tries to claim that it has. And when you do that, what you do is you reframe the entire event. And it makes it very, very difficult for those entities to remain, because they are reminded that they are not the end all and be all of the universe as they're trying to get everybody to believe.
Right.
So, I find part of what I like about your book is I really like the photos. I think the photos are great. Like, I'm looking at this photo here of Richard Shaver and Raymond Palmer.
Yeah.
It's like, what a couple of funny guys,
Yeah. Well, Richard Shaver from my hometown of Berwick, Pennsylvania. So.
Yeah. No, I like that whole little chapter where you just list the weird crap that's connected to that area. I think that's great.
Yeah. But what you were saying is, I think that maybe Islam talks more about the shades of gray, whereas Christianity or specifically Catholicism looks at things in stark terms of good and evil, nothing in between. And I think that they get that wrong. And again, not to criticize, Catholicism, but just to say that there's another way to look at things, and just holistically, we have to look at the shades of gray, because we're not all just good or bad. We're little bits of both, we're everything. So that's just the way it is. Some people, even when I'm down here in Florida and we are invited to places where we could sell our books, and you'll ask people, say, do you like to read? Do you like to read the paranormal? And many times I either get, no, I don't like to read, and people boast about it, which is really sad. Or sometimes there's people that say, no, I stay away from the paranormal. Or they'll say, no, I'm a Christian and I try to keep my mind clear. I don't get into that. So, I'm confronted with that too. I mean, some people view me or people like me as being, I don't know, just not, maybe not in the light. I don't know what they think, but I mean, I view myself as an academic. I mean, I'm really fascinated by all these topics, and so I try to investigate them and write about them and give them parameters, try to define those. That's what I do. I don't dance with the devil. I don't dabble in the I don't make any bargains, because I'm good with what I have. So, that's
this is not a beer, by the way. This is Schweppes sparkling seltzer water.
All right. Yes.
You're reminding me of, there was this survey I did on Prolific, and you had to go hang out with these people, and you put a little bit about yourself, and you had to like it or dislike it. It was about 8 people. And basically you see on the screen, everybody's liking who they like and disliking. For some reason, 7 people disliked me And the only thing I put no one knew me at all.
Yeah.
I just put, I host a paranormal radio show. And I swear to God, I'm sitting there and I'm like, there was like 7 dislikes. And I was like, it made me feel I had to get out of complex.
Not everybody likes the paranormal. Not everybody likes horror movies. You know, I mean, I go to horror movies by myself because my wife refuses to go. Sometimes I'm the only person in the theater. I don't care. I'm just going to enjoy it, maybe get a little thrill. But usually, I mean, all the thrills are already been used so many times, you know. So, but that's okay. I mean, horror movies, at least for me, it's a way for us to go and maybe control our fears. It's a way to go and get a handle on that, you know. So we do it vicariously, you know.
I gotta ask you, you're in Florida. Have you heard of I always have trouble saying his name, Swinguli, the horror host that's here.
Oh, yeah, I watch him all the time. Yeah, I like Swinguli, yeah.
There he is.
Yeah, okay. He's good. Yeah, he's good.
Yeah, I love him. He's in
Chicago.
TV. Yeah, originally Chicago, but for some Me TV I know is in Florida, and every Saturday at 7 p.m. Central, it airs on Me TV.
Okay, I didn't know it was Me TV was from Florida.
I don't know if I know it broadcasts here, but I don't know if it might. It says Panama City, but I mean, it may be in Chicago and then have multiple outlets.
I get it at 8:00, but he's good. He does all the stuff, the background information about the actors and all that stuff.
Yeah, I love it.
And he's funny. He's funny.
I got another one of them. I got his little coffin. He's in it. Yeah, he's inside of it. Well, he's good. But mostly there's nothing like it. I mean, Elvira? You see her sometimes, but there's that Bob Briggs or whatever on Shudder. But I mean, as far as there's not many, it's like a relic. He's like a relic. There's not, you know.
There used to be a lot of guys like him, you know, back in the 50s and I guess early 60s, but not anymore. So
I saw him without his makeup. I was like, you wouldn't know it. It was him for the world. He just looked like I don't know if he's Italian or what, but he looked like just a normal old dude without all this stuff on. But I love it. Yeah, that's how I've been doing my horror lately. I've seen a few one movie I saw that was crazy. I don't know if you got to see it, but you got to be careful because it's very vulgar. The Substance with Demi Moore, and that's new. But it's about these ladies that are trying to stay beautiful, and somehow they do this thing. It gets crazy as hell, but it's called The Substance. It's good, but it's definitely over sexualized a lot. But Demi Moore's butt naked in it for sure. But
I've actually seen that. That to me is more of psychological.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Psychological horror, and not so much, you know, like supernatural horror, but more like kind of understanding some of the weird psychological crap we do to ourselves and each other, you know, taken to an extreme.
Yeah.
It was nuts for sure.
That was sort of like Henry James, The Turn of the Screw back in the 1800s. And that was all like a psychological, like maybe something supernatural is happening, you know. I mean, I love those haunted house stories. Like there was one, Stephen King's The Shining was based on a book called Burnt Offerings, Robert Mancuso, I think. But anyway, Burnt Offerings was about this house that the people from, I think, Long Island went to the suburbs and stayed at this mansion, but they had to take care of it. Similar story as Stephen King's The Shining, but here the house was evil, and little by little the house took over. I mean, it's really spooky, you know, but I read that book twice, the Burnt Offerings. It was really a pretty
There's a movie about it too. There's a movie called it.
They had a movie, right. Yeah, so that was
the lady from that one with the little wooden doll. What's her name? Karen Black. Yeah, Karen Black.
Oh yeah, Karen Black looked spooky.
Well, we're going on an hour, and it's always great having you on. And it's up to you. Are you ready to get out of here and eject?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna. But I'd like to thank you again for having me on, and
it's always good
for expanding the narrative. So that's cool.
Mark
So-
Eddy's going to stop by for a little bit, and but yeah, it's always a pleasure to have you on. Keep us updated, and we'll always get you back on. We love it. Thank you.
Sounds
Thank you.
good.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Okay. And I was just going to say to your listeners, if they're interested in any of my, what I've been doing, I have a website called www.maximfurek.com, and they could check me out there and contact me through that website.
All righty, we appreciate it. I know Wham's not feeling the best. I feel kind of ill myself, so Mark's going to come by. We'll see what he's got to say, fill in some space, and we appreciate it. Keep in touch, and I'll stay in touch. Take care, man. Take
Please
care.
do. Professor Wham sending you some positive healing energy. So
Thank you.
Hope you're feeling better. Okay. Thank you, guys. We'll see you again, and have a nice Christmas and a nice New Year's.
All right. Take care, man. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye now.
All right. You're listening to United Public Radio 107.7 FM, New Orleans. There he is. We got some Oreo cream filling. Mark Eddy.
I don't know. That just sounds obscene to me.
Yeah, maybe we ought to just get back to the
Dolphin
haunted
love.
house stuff. That was a little weird.
Yeah. But where are you at? In a hotel? Like you're in a haunted house.
No, I'm in my new home after
the floods.
Yeah.
Cool.
So it's that's not a real backdrop or anything like that. AI generated. It's real bedroom and office. Real dresser there.
Well,
you had a flood. What happened?
Yeah.
What happened?
Well, a lot of rain.
Well, I know that, but remind me of where you are.
and the catastrophic flooding made the national news as the small town of Philadelphia, West Virginia was really hammered. About 2 weeks later was the Texas flood, but I was just the stream that went in front of my house fed into the creek that had the widespread damage
in Texas.
No, in West Virginia.
In West Virginia, okay.
And
I couldn't remember which flood you were talking about since there have been so many.
Yeah, right. And basically, my house was left uninhabitable.
I'm so sorry. That sucks.
No, thank you. It always could have been worse, but it's just we could invest a whole lot of money we don't have to put a heat boiler in the basement and hot water tank and washer and dryer, and the chances are probably pretty good that the same thing is just going to happen again the next hard rain. And it's already happened a few times, and it's just time to get out of that situation. So, in the process of selling the house.
So, figuring out what you're going to do and where you're going to go.
Yeah. I only moved up to Mom's house. I could be considered one of the people living in mom and dad's basement.
Yeah. Well, were you able to save some belongings?
Oh yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it was just not much from the basement, but it did make it into the living quarters, so all that was um, saved. Just everything in the basement was destroyed, rendered not salvageable. Yeah, um, the 8 Days of Hope group that goes to disaster areas and helps people to clean up. They help to finish cleaning up my basement. I think they got there about a week after the flood hit, and I'd been doing a lot of shoveling, but they had 11 people come over. They were just very helpful. You can't, you just couldn't ask for any better people, except for like you and Jeffrey not being there. But I really enjoyed working with them. I thought they did a fantastic job. Even wait, hold on a second. Even they gave me a little book, invited me to dinner.
Yeah.
And the crew. I got various autographs from the people.
Mm-hmm.
What was this from again? What was this from again?
The 8 Days of Hope.
Bible thing, like a Christian thing, like one of those conventions.
Well, they go to disaster areas and help people to.
Oh, okay.
Clean up. They were just.
Any FEMA run-ins? Did FEMA harass you?
No. I spoke with them.
Yeah.
I thought they're really very helpful. Didn't have any problems with them. All the church people were very helpful. So they made a really bad situation worse. There were not 9 people who died. It was that bad.
Yeah. It's definitely not good for sure. But at least you got it. You live where you live. I live with my mom. So some people gives me crap for it, but oh well. I'm poor.
Hey, it's.
Hey.
I mean, when
the house, go ahead.
When these things happen, family and friends, and
Mine happened during Hurricane Michael when I had to move here.
Yeah, I remember. Remember, me and whoever the guest was, we had to run the show because you were trapped in your trailer without any electricity.
Yeah, I remember some shaman deck or somebody about shamanism.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can probably hear Spunky saying how much he enjoys being on the Church of Mabus.
Is that a bird? That's a bird?
Yeah, cockatiel.
Okay, I thought it was. Okay, I see. I thought it was a dog with a squeak toy. I didn't. It's now see in the cage.
He wants to know what you're doing. He wants to be part of it.
Yeah, what's up, bro?
Yeah, and your dog stopped in to talk to Max as well.
Yeah, and I used to take care of those kind of birds at Petco when I worked there. I was the bird specialist. which I don't know how the hell I landed that one, but took some test and passed it. Next thing you know, I was the bird specialist, and I don't remember any of it. So don't give me a bird to take care of. It'll probably croak. But that was a long time ago. But good to have you here. And next week's the last show of the year. So
Yeah, you got your
we'll be
birthday
starting
coming
over.
up.
Oh God, don't remind me. Oh, 51. Oh, it's horrible.
Yeah, I
Half
think.
dead.
Yeah, I think when we first met, we were maybe still in late 30s.
Yeah, it was the Glorious Dolphin Show.
That was before
I
that.
don't. Yeah. And you remember Guy, don't you? I can't believe Guy died.
Mm-hmm.
Co-host Guy Whittle. We hated each other, but I didn't want him to drop dead or anything. But he was kind of like one of those David Biedney types. I don't know if y'all have ever heard of him. Have you wham David Biedney?
I have heard of David Biedney, but I don't recall from what.
He was a host, a co-host with Gene Steinberg on the Paracast, and he quit the Paracast and somehow came to me afterwards, and I didn't even know him. I don't even know how he knew about the show. Came to me to ask to be on the show, and he used it as a sounding board to attack Gene Steinberg and just went off on Gene. And it was a big interview, and I didn't even know who the hell he was. For some reason, he came to me to be on the show, but he was one of those ego type hosts, like Guy, who, like like some guy named Jim Sparks is on the been on the network, and he's always writing pro-Trump stuff on his Facebook and annoying me. But David went after him because of a restroom in space when he was abducted, and asked him, "Did you ever use the restroom?" He was just one of those hosts that's always like trying to mess with you to see if you're telling the truth, like confrontational, like a dickhead. And that's what Guy was. And Guy started being kind of mentally abusive and just a jerk and just being a dick. And I was like, "Well, you're fired." He goes, "You can't fire me. I helped make the show." I was like, "You answered a help wanted ad, dude. That was mine. That's how you got here." But anyway, he died from diabetes. Guy did. And the weird thing is, recently, if you look up David Biedney, Church of Mabus, Sympathy for the Devil, it's on YouTube, and there's people under it going, they love this David Biedney guy. And he's dead. I found out recently he's dead. He died like a year or two ago, and he was like a big Apple person, like some kind of like a creator of Apple stuff somehow, and was famous for that. But you can find it on YouTube. It's called David Biedney, Sympathy for the Devil, Church of Mabus. And it was just one of those weird things that kind of made the show, more popular. I have no idea why it came to me, or I think because I knew Jeremy and we were doing those interviews, me and Vaney, and then we had a falling out, me and Vaney, and I guess him and Vaney didn't get along, but I was shocked. I didn't know he was like some big Apple creator or something. Like I found a whole group on Facebook dedicated to this dude, David Biedney. People crying.
Wham's been a consistent, normal co-host with you.
Yes.
Yes, I'm sorry. I had to mute myself a little bit.
You just said normal.
No, I remember, Jeff and I go back, long enough that, I remember some of the, we don't even have to, get into the dolphin show, but, I know, some of the situations he's talking about, and, I think you've helped to bring keep Jeffrey on a even keel.
I don't know, Jeffrey. Do I keep you on an even keel?
Yeah, I'm peaceful when you're co-hosting. Oh, I do. Speaking of peace, gone there, but no, I think it's a good grounding.
I know, because there are times when I don't say a whole lot. I mean, I am listening, but there are times I don't say a whole lot. But I suppose my presence is there,
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, you usually do. It just depends on the mood and the flavor and the guest. And
yeah.
There were times. Jeffrey talks about his Howard Stern kind of days, and I think he's become a more mainstream kind of host. I don't want to say normal, but
yeah. Were you there for the drunk lady that co-hosted once?
Yeah, that was.
Was I there for that? I don't recall that.
No, I think that was
the lady that came on to help me co-host, and she got drunk and got thrown off and caused trouble, and was like, Frank Joseph was the guest, and she said something weird about Atlantis. It was just one of those like tryouts that went horribly, horribly wrong, and she didn't come back on. But she was like, that's one thing to be drunk, but she was like an idiot. I'm rude.
Yeah, that one.
Beazle, remember Beazle?
Yeah.
Oh, I love Beazle. Are you still in touch with Beazle?
It's been a little while, but not that long. I mean, he came on last year sometime or whatever, but he had to work more. That's why he wasn't a co-host. But I talked to him. I need to give him a call, and it's been a little while. But he was on last year or early last year, or I have to dig it up. But he's been on a year or two ago, I know. But he's a chef, so he's always doing weird stuff, weird chef stuff. I know there was some post, some YouTube video, someone's complaining about Beazle saying or yeah all the time or something. Like some of the comments you get to see.
Yeah, I love Beazle. Beazle is so great.
He's a great co-host.
In fact, I was just thinking about him like 2 weeks ago. I can't. Oh yeah, I remember he created this avatar of me and him and sent it to me once. He was playing with, those little avatar pictures that you can make caricatures of, because I was asked to give a presentation at a real foo-foo New York State educational technology conference a couple weeks ago, right before Thanksgiving. And they wanted a photo of me for the to put on the panel. I was going to be on a panel, but I didn't want to give them a photo because I don't want my photo to be out there in public that AI can grab it, especially in certain areas. So I found his avatar picture of me, and I photoshopped it a little bit and sent that to them. and they used it,
Cool.
Which I think is funny.
I'll have to tell him. I'll call him sometime. But one time he sent me his book here. It's like one of his weird books that he wrote. It's good, but he sent it in such a way my name wasn't on the package, so it went to the other house with like our relatives, and they got it, and they're like, "What the hell is this? Like the weird like occult stuff all over. It must be for Jeffrey." But for some reason, he didn't put my name on the package or something. I remember telling me a story once that Homeland Security came to his house because he bought drugs in the mail, and he didn't get in trouble, but he had to give like info about it or something. And they were basically there because of, I guess, where he got it from. They were a person or whatever, but some kind of crazy story like that. But he's also hung out with Marilyn Manson and Gary Busey. Crazy stories like that.
Interesting combination.
Yeah, I know. I was just gonna
Last
say.
time I heard about BT, he was like naked stroking it in the park and got caught or something. Gross.
Wham, what's the latest in your neck of the woods?
Actually, there has been some weird stuff. Come to think of it, there's been some strange colored lights that have been seen in several places.
Like
in New Paltz. Well, there have been two reports that I've seen. One report was of colored lights that were seen in New Paltz and Poughkeepsie, which is kind of a little south and across the river from New Paltz. And then the other night, there were these interesting series of rotating lights that I'm pretty sure were generated somehow on the ground. I mean, what they looked like were kind of interesting. Excuse me. They looked like they might be some kind of laser display from the ground that were being reflected up into the clouds and then manipulated. I mean, that's what it looked like. But what was weird about it was that they were appearing in more than one place, so that people were seeing them in New Paltz and then in Poughkeepsie and then in Hyde Park. And these are like across the river from each other. Okay. And then there were some seen in Kingston, and then there were some seen up in Saugerties, which is quite a bit north. And they were all seen within the same time period. So even though they look, I mean, when I saw them, I thought, oh, these are like laser displays from the ground somehow. But the fact that they were seen in like these widely disparate places, like within an hour or two of each other, I thought was kind of odd, because if somebody would have to be traveling, or there'd have to be multiple people doing them, you know, like, and it's not, and it wouldn't be the kind of, the topography here is such that it would not be able, somebody like say in New Paltz wouldn't be able to like shoot these things over to Saugerties and do it, because there's mountains in the way. You know, so it was just odd. So I don't know what those were. I mean, but, and then I just got word from the guy who rents, you know, my trainer who's in the haunted gym, that he's had several new little incidences pop up. And so he's redeployed all of his cameras up. And something happened apparently like within a minute or two after I left the gym on Monday night. He had gotten this new, it's like a portable wireless speaker that is also a receiver, like you can like program it to connect with your phone for Spotify. And so what he does is like he can carry the speaker around when he's going up and down the stairs to do different kinds of things for, you know, different kinds of what is it? Circuit training things for people, because he does different stuff upstairs and then different stuff downstairs. So it's just like one speaker. It's portable. It's maybe about, I don't know, maybe about 2 feet high, and you can tell when it's on because it has this colored display that when you turn it on, this colored display, you know, does motion. The colors move in accordance with whatever is being played at the time. It's kind of like the weird disco on a disco ball on a speaker, right? Well, I had just left, and he videoed this. I had just left, and he started hearing something upstairs, like footsteps upstairs, which is not uncommon. we hear footsteps upstairs all the time when there's nobody up there. And so he started hearing it, and he still had lights and everything on, but he had turned this speaker off. He had turned it off. He had completely deprogrammed it. He turned it off, and it was sitting in the corner. And he turned on his phone, and he was talking into his phone, and he was trying to get the footstep sound, and then all of a sudden that speaker came on, and he filmed it. It came on. It was making music, but it wasn't on. It was actually physically turned off. He actually walked over to it while it was on. He walked over to it, and with his phone, he recorded that it was turned off. And
how do you explain that?
He didn't. He just said, he's just like going, whoa, it's turning on. Whoa. Just like that. But anyway, so he has that on video, and there were lights on. I mean, he was turning everything off, but he hadn't gotten to everything yet. And he started hearing these footsteps, and I couldn't hear the footsteps, but that's just because there was a little bit of distortion in the phone. But it's quite possible that the sound guy that we know might be able to pick them up, because you could hear them when he said when you were there, you could hear them with your ears. It's just weird that he couldn't get it to pick up on the phone. But anyway, so stuff is probably happening there. I've been ill all week though, so I haven't been able to check in with him to see. But yeah, there's been some stuff that's been going on.
Okay, well, that's interesting about the lights as well.
Yeah, I know, it is odd. I mean, there were some pretty decent videos of the lights.
And it's almost like all the drones as well. Has that ever been figured out?
No, not that I know of. Not that I know of.
What, that was about a year? Was that a year ago?
A year and a half. Well, yeah, it was. Yeah, no, actually, it was a little over a year ago, because it was right after the election. Remember? I know it seems like forever, that the election was forever, but yeah, it was right after the election. So it was maybe about a year ago, January of last year. Yeah.
Okay.
Or January of this year, I should say.
Okay. Well, it's almost January of the next year, so that's we're talking about the same time frame. I was just wondering if any of those, like the drone lights, could be interpreted as somehow being involved with the lights in Poughkeepsie. I don't know. It's
I don't know.
More common anymore. People talking about all the you see people using drones all the time.
Oh, I know. And I mean, it's like I said. I mean, the reason why I tended to think that these lights were coming from the ground is that they were too coordinated. They were too. In order to get drones to coordinate at that level, it would be kind of hard. But if you had something like on the ground, what it really looked like was something projecting up from the ground, lasers projecting up into the ground, into the clouds, because the night when people saw those, it was kind of intermittently cloudy. And the clouds were kind of this, we just had some snow. And so the clouds were kind of this weird sort of patchy. And so these, whatever was, it was zipping around in the clouds, but in a very coordinated fashion. And there were like maybe 5 lights altogether, and they weren't round, they weren't orbs, they were kind of delta shaped in a weird sort of way. anyway, it was just weird. I mean, I saw like 3 or 4 pieces of footage that people were posting. People were posting to local Facebook pages. And that's what, my partner drew my attention to them. And so I started sort of I kind of went in, like they were being posted to the Hyde Park community page and then the New Paltz community page. And then people started realizing that people from other towns were seeing them. And so they were like, oh yeah, we saw these in Hyde Park. We saw these in Saugerties, that kind of thing. So it was interesting.
Yeah.
So I have no idea what they were.
Yeah, you made some interesting points with Max about maybe some of the hauntings he's reported might be, or they sound more like jinn than demons.
Yeah, well, especially those things that are connected to place. I mean, I just find the explanations of the explanations of jinn to be a little more convincing, because I think of the traditions regarding jinn. In classic Middle Eastern and now Islamic, because Muslims have adopted basically an older belief system about these things. It's not original to them. Demons, they're, I'll put it this way. Demons there's a finite number of them. I'll put it that way. There's a finite number of them. And they have, in that cosmology, they have a different function, and they don't really deal with humans that much. They deal more with like sort of natural processes, whereas the jinn tend to be much more interested in people and in things that are connected to people or certain places sometimes. And the jinn that are involved with people are of 2 types, basically. One type that they are helpful towards us, and another type that they pester us. And one type in particular that they actually don't like us at all. And so because we're vulnerable in certain ways, they will pick on us in a predatory fashion. And the reason in Islamic cosmology, the reason why sometimes there's a language of demons and jinn that are used interchangeably is because humans can't tell the difference. We don't have the ability to see. They both operate in the realm of energy. And so to us, we can't discern one from the other. And so we tend to blur these categories when in fact they're quite distinct. So, that's part of the reason why in those traditions, since you can't tell a good jinn from a bad jinn just right off the bat either. So that's part of the reason why you're counseled to just like avoid all of it if you can, because we are not smart enough or perceptive enough to be able to tell the difference between good and bad. And, that best play on the safe side than.
Okay. Well, it was, what you were talking about with the the jinn are more associated with a place
or people, or especially places that have been occupied by people.
Okay. Well, Max's book covers all these haunted houses. So, there's a place. I don't know the subject, in such great detail that I can make a distinction. Okay, but you are making an interesting point. Max's book is dealing with places connected to people, and then you get the with the Smurls, you get the girl in puberty that could be attracting whatever entity it is.
Mhm.
It is interesting. Jeffrey, since you come from a church background, do you think there's a uh, as we do, like these kind of shows and talk about, these kind of topics, uh, does it seem like we're promoting this or just making people aware? It's like you need to be aware of, you know, what the devil does, and one of the forget which book it is. You know, expose the devil. So you need to know a little bit about it. What do you think about um, what what is frequently discussed on podcasts?
About the devil? What
Or
about?
like what, having these kind of haunted house discussions, are we promoting something we shouldn't, or just making people aware of what's out there?
I think it's good to be aware about it. I mean, it may draw energy to it, but as far as it happens, people are going through it. You can just there's a lot of different cases about it and things like that, and it's something that needs to be discussed. You know, but as far as I mean, there's just different ways. I mean, these cases that he's talking about, those are real cases that involved, crazy situations with murderers and things like that. And what
Mhm.
was it he was talking about with the court case for the Amityville guy where they were saying he didn't have empathy and for his family and stuff like that?
The DeFeo.
Yeah, yeah. They actually did case studies on him and things like that about empathy and how he lacked it and stuff like that.
Yeah, he
Well,
had. Max said he had some real serious mental issues. I'm gonna have to let me look that up. But Jeffrey, you're right. I'm just let's see. Argument. Despite an argument of insanity, DeFeo was convicted of 6 counts of second-degree murder and handed 6 concurrent 25 to life sentences.
did he do
Uh, he,
jail time? They put him to death or he went to prison?
uh, uh, he was remanded to the Sullivan Correctional Facility in Dannemora, New York, locked away to keep the world safe from his madness.
Mm.
Uh, he DeFeo claimed that he was being controlled by an evil spirit that forced him to shoot his parents. Okay, the defense said he was possessed by demonic forces. Uh, the defense's arguments did not sway the court. The forensic psychiatrist said DeFeo was had an antisocial personality, someone immune from guilt and driven by self gratification.
Charming.
And born into privilege, small time criminal, uh, drug user, uh, was street drugs. He was also taking antipsychotic medication for his explosive personality and disturbing relationship with his father, who regularly beat him.
Wow.
But I think Maxim had a lot of these. His book's not excessively long, but it just kind of gives you the highlights of the cases of several haunted houses. I enjoyed reading reading it. I am coming up as well, but yeah, he does talk about the different priests who came to their roles in trying to exorcise the homes, and you get Ed and Lorraine Warren working with them as well. It's actually interesting combination of people working to help these families.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like I said. I mean, I guess like I said, my own approach is towards these kinds of infestations is more like what Paul Eno used to do.
Mm-hmm. He was very good.
He was very good at it, and he didn't exorcise, and he worked with exorcists. I mean, he had been, I mean, as you know, he knew Ed and Lorraine Warren, and was their understudy for a while, and disagreed with them about much of what was going on in many of these cases. And what's always difficult is knowing how much the people who are involved in the situation is trying to help them more than worrying about what might externally be going on, because it's kind of like what I said about the jinn in Islamic thought. The reason why jinn are able to do this to begin with is because there's something about the humans involved that make them vulnerable to it. And it can be any number of things. It can be a kind of secret fascination that people might have with the idea of power or evil, or it can be certain obsessions that a person might have. It can be an illness, a physical illness in some cases, or a mental illness in some cases. I think part of the reason why a lot of times these things emerge with children, or children going through puberty, is because a person is changing so much. Their emotions are so intense during that time that they become vulnerable in certain ways. They may even exteriorize that stuff in certain ways, especially if there are family conflicts.
Yeah, Max covered that with the in the Smurl.
Yeah.
He brought that out as a possible cause.
Mm-hmm.
Let's. Give me a second. I'll find. Okay, there's hang on. Still, it's saw the part where he wrote about the levitating dog.
Talking about where he's talking about if religion brought it in or helped manifest it. I know Wham has said some similar stuff, but we got like 1 minute left.
Oh, okay.
Quite fast.
One psychological theory espouses that latent telekinetic powers of female adolescents may cause hauntings. On that note, the Smurl's 17-year-old daughter Dawn saw their German Shepherd levitate and yelping, but unharmed. Okay. I'll have to look for the rest of the passage for next time I get pulled into one of our talks. But go ahead and Jeffrey, wrap it up.
Well, thanks for stopping by. And Wham's been under the weather, and I feel like I got hit by a bus. So we appreciate the fiber in our diet. So we got one show for the rest of the year, and then we'll take a 2-week break. I need a break. I feel burned out, so I like those little breaks. But so everybody, we'll see you next week. That's Americans Gothic Hauntings. That's our last show of the year with Leanne. She'll be here. I think Christina's going to be sitting in, and Wham will be here. That'll be our last show of the year. So hope everyone has a Merry
Sounds like
Christmas.
a good one.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. It's from Penguin Books, and it should be good for sure. That'll be our last one, and then we come back on the 9th of January. And all right, everybody, you're listening to United Public Radio 107.7 FM New Orleans. Everybody have a good weekend. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.